So as a real estate agent, of course, every day I'm seeing what transpires in the real estate market, the goods, the bads, the uglies. And in today's video, I'm going to be going over some truthful advice you need to hear if you're a home buyer looking in this New Hampshire market currently. Most of these things are really easy, but it's just things you should keep in mind when you're going to search for a home and how to deal with this competitive market that we're still facing here in New Hampshire. So one of the biggest pieces of advice I can give, and the first piece of advice I'm going to start with, is understanding the local market. And I'm not saying that you as the buyer need to actually go out there and do your market research super deeply and understand every little sale and how to understand a price. But I am saying that you should hire a real estate agent that shows you they understand the real estate market, they understand the price, they understand negotiations. And actually, if you're hiring them, trust what they're telling you when you're going about looking at homes. Certain situations are going to be different than other situations. Every house sale is a little bit different in their own way. Every house is a little bit different. Might be harder to get financing, might be harder to pass inspections, whatever it is, everything has its own little quirks. But you really have to trust the person you hire, because this can apply to having to put in really strong offers on houses and also being open to throwing in a lowball offer every now and then. Because in the past, over my past 5 years of experience, I've had buyers that just completely ignore my advice and then they don't really get anywhere where they could have gotten. For example, I've had some buyers that they were looking for something that was a little bit of a fixer-upper kind of deal, and there was a bunch of homes on the market, and a lot of them were sitting on the market because they were kind of fixer-upper homes and they're not worth what they're listed for. So when my buyer would go see the house with me, we'd go through and then be like, well, we like it, but the price is just way too high for us to actually be able to buy it. And I would say, well, no, I completely understand that. It's been on the market for X number of days, and I think it's not worth this number either. Maybe we should just put in a lowball offer, see what happens, see if the seller counters. And in this specific situation, they would just say, you know what, I'd rather just wait and we'll kind of keep an eye on it, see if it drops price, and if it does, maybe we'll come back at it. But the thing that they're not really understanding, and I try to get to them, is, hey, even if they don't accept your lowball offer, that's not really the point in putting in the lowball offer. It's to show, hey, seller, your house isn't really worth what you're asking for, here's an offer. The other thing is, even if they say discard that offer and be like, no, we're not accepting that, if they get another lowball offer a week later, well, guess what? They're going to be like, well, we also have this person interested. Maybe we can see if they want to go in a little higher. So they can kind of have you on the sideline if needed. But in this situation, again, they said no. So sometimes we'd find houses that they were looking at, and I'd look into them because I always like keeping an eye on it. And they would sell for a lower price than listed that probably would have been a price my buyers would have been happy at, but they just didn't want to even try. And then the next one is, of course, having to put in a strong offer. And whenever we're in a situation that I know it's going to be a pretty popular house, because again, I'm in a local real estate market, I know kind of what's happening. If I see a house that looks really good, I'm going to be like, that one's probably going over before even going to look at it. So if I have a buyer that's interested, I would go up, I would ask the listing agent what the case is there multiple offers, is there a deadline? And if there is, I would try to get a little bit more out of them. A lot of real estate agents keep their mouth tight with a key and throw it in a C, but if you can get anything out of them, it's nice to at least bring back to you as a buyer and be like, hey, this is kind of what we're dealing with. We're going to have to be in a strong offer situation. And then I always give certain tips that if you're my buyer, I will give you, but I don't want to put them all out there because there's some good tips that can win you an offer. And I've had clients, again, like this, where they put in a great offer, and I actually had the listing agent come back to me and say, hey, they really like your offer. They're willing to accept it, but they'd have to be $5,000 more to get it to beat out this other one, which that you never even get a chance at. But my buyers said, no, that's all right. We don't think it's worth it. $5,000 over 30 years is maybe a couple bucks a month. So it's hard with those. And now those buyers still haven't found anything, and they've been looking for months on end. Now, the second piece of advice that I'm going to be going over is passing on good homes. Now, this one always irks me because in my mind, I see a lot of buyers go through a lot of houses. I'm like, this one would work for you, but they just have some picture in their mind, and in the end, well, it's your decision as a buyer. You're the one spending the money. So I understand if you don't want to do it, you don't want to do it. But I've had buyers pass on great homes because either it was like their first weekend searching and they just wanted to see some more before putting an offer in, or they just didn't think it had everything that they wanted in it. And one thing I always try to convey to my buyers when I start searching for them is make a list of what you want and stuff, absolutely. But understand when you're out there searching, if the house has like 70% of what you want, consider putting an offer in, because a lot of times it's hard finding a house that has everything you want. Even people who build brand new houses, within a few months of living there, they wish they did something different. It's just the way it goes. So you're not going to be able to find that perfect house. Probably, maybe if you have a super extreme unlimited budget, you will, but if not, you might have to make a few compromises. But I've realized most of the time that people pass on decent homes is because the buyer that's actually looking at the house understands, I think in the back of their mind, this is what I'm going to be able to afford, but they have a criteria that is out of their price budget. Like they might want 3 bedrooms, 2 bath with 3 acres of land for $300,000. Well, guess what? In this market, nothing's went for $300,000 with that type of stuff, especially something that's move-in ready. That's probably in the $400,000. So even if something does get listed around $300,000, well, guess what? It's going to go way over because that's what everything else is selling at. So it's really having to understand the market. And another thing is understanding your own situation. And by this, I mean, if you're a first-time home buyer, understand you're searching from a first-time home buyer's position. That means you're probably going to have to compromise on some things because most of the time, first-time home buyers don't have the biggest budget because it's the first time they're buying a home, which means they're probably not in the best position of job yet. Maybe they still just got into a job, so they're working up the ladder or whatever it may be. You're probably limited on budget if it's your first time buying a home. And sometimes first-time home buyers want a dream house, but it's like you want a dream house that is $650,000, but your budget's $350,000. We have to set the standards down to what we can actually buy. So that's one thing, and a lot of people will pass on good homes because they're wanting something so big and such a good deal that it just isn't out there, because if it was such a good deal, there'd be 100 people at the door ready to buy it. Now, the last point I want to touch on for a piece of advice is taking a break from looking. Now, I want to bring this up because it was around the holidays and so many people take breaks from looking. And if it's taking a break from looking just because it's been a little tough in the market, you've been looking at homes, maybe you've been putting in offers, but they haven't been getting accepted. Taking a break just because you're a little stressed out is silly. You're going to find the right house if you keep looking, especially through these holidays and through the winter when other buyers go dormant because they don't want to go out in the snow. You can be getting up a pretty good deal if you actually stay active, keep looking at houses, keep putting in offers, and see what's out there. And start looking at houses that have been sitting on the market for a little bit. That's where you're going to see some opportunities to actually negotiate the price down. And a lot of people think, well, the market has shifted, so it's not as hard, or at least that's what they say, but it's still a really hot market. It's not as red hot as a few years ago, but it's still hard, especially where your budget and your actual criteria is. Again, if you're a first-time home buyer, well, guess what? You're competing with a ton of other first-time home buyers, and not only first-time home buyers, but also people who are downsizing from a big old $600,000 home who can buy that $300,000 home with cash. So it is still kind of hard to compete, but you have to find your advantages in the marketplace. Now, I do want to add to this before I wrap it up is if you're taking a break from looking because you've ran into a financial hard time or it just doesn't make sense right now, that is completely fine. Of course, take a break from looking, but don't keep looking at houses and wasting your time and your realtor's time going out and looking at properties even though you have no plans of making an offer, because then that's just kind of silly and a little bit rude. So instead, just be truthful. Be like, hey, we ran into this. We're going to be taking a break for a few months to resave for a down payment or work back on the credit score. Whatever you need to do, just be honest with it. So then when the time comes, you get all your ducks in a row. You're ready to hop right back in. Your realtor's there again. You already know them and you're good and you're off to the races. So those are a few things I just wanted to say. A couple pieces of advice for buyers. A lot of times, buyers can find, sometimes it takes a week to find a house, sometimes it takes 4 months, 5 months to find a house. And the thing that people have to understand is you just have to keep looking, but you also have to actually be putting in offers. If you're going to just keep looking and looking and looking and looking and never put in an offer because the price doesn't make sense or this one isn't exactly the right one, well, you're never going to find a house if you're never making an offer. So you do have to put in offers. You do have to be okay being like, hey, this isn't exactly what I had in mind when I thought about my first house, but this will work, I'll be able to do this, or maybe it's just a different location. I wasn't thinking I wanted to live here, but this one makes sense. You just have to keep an open mind if you're actually looking to buy a house, because again, inventory is limited still and the market is pretty hot. So even if you find one that works, if it's your first offer, well, guess what? Don't be surprised if you don't get your first offer, even though you've looked at 35 homes. It's all about the actual offers and how many offers you're making them good. And then again, listen to the person you hire for the job. Make sure you're taking what they're saying into consideration. Trust me, realtors, especially buyers agents, are working for you as a buyer, solely as you for the buyer. They're trying to get you the best deal. So if they're telling you to go over, it's not because they want more money. It's because, hey, your goal is to get this house. If you want it, I'm being truthful, you have to go over the list price. Or be like, hey, just try lowballing it. I don't care. I'm the one putting in the offer for you. Let me put it in. And you just have to, like, again, listen to what they're doing and be on the same page with them. That's one of the biggest things. Communication helps a ton in real estate. So I hope you found this a little bit valuable. Little tips. If you're starting to look in 2025 for a new house, reach out to me. I'd love to be able to, I have a buyer's consultation you can schedule right below down in the link. I'd be happy to speak with you, kind of figure out what's happening. Even if you're not moving in this location, I can always speak with you and then set you up with someone in my real estate office, because we basically cover the whole entire state. So I hope this was valuable. If it was, hit that like and subscribe button. I'll catch you guys next week with another video.